And it looks like we did it. It is Monday morning, August 19th, 2024. This is Up North News Radio, live from Milwaukee. This is Pat Kreitlow in a lonely hotel room in the historic Third Ward because we're on our way to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. Greg Bach is in Waukesha. Talk a bit about our weekend, spending a little time together. Also heading to a Brewers game. Of course, we'll talk about the convention. A lot of things going to be happening this week as Vice President Kamala Harris accepts the nomination of her party. And we will talk about the Trump campaign and the bizarre messaging that they continue to engage in. Hostile, rude, false, all the usual suspects will be there. Let's see. We will have in our first hour, Dr. Kristen Lyerly should be joining us. Selena Heller will be along as well. And then we will hear from State Senator Diane Hasselbein. She is the Senate Democratic leader in the Wisconsin legislature, and she too is heading to Chicago. We'll talk about the issues that are going to be discussed on this very busy week that we're covering here on Up North News Radio. The show gets started at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
us, Wisconsin, from Civic Media. This is Up North News Radio. Now, live from Milwaukee, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
He's not kidding. Don Rue, thank you very much. Hey, good morning, Wisconsin. Good morning from Milwaukee, where it is 6:06 on Monday morning, August 19th, 2024. It's another beautiful day to have you here from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, through the app, on social media, or through podcast. Even if you're listening up north, where I'm not this time around, because we're getting set to make our way to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. And so in honor of doing the show from a hotel room downtown while Greg Bach is just up the road in downtown Waukesha, here's my question of the morning. Is anybody else having for breakfast a cold slice of spicy pepperoni pizza and some hotel lobby coffee? Or is that just me? I'm going to say it's just me. Good morning, Mr. Bach.
Amazing. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Pat. How are you today?
I'm good. For the first couple of days, Sherry was here. We were having this lovely little weekend getaway in Milwaukee that we're going to talk about in a bit. And then, of course, she left to head back up north to work and everything. I get set to hit Chicago. How quickly this place became a bachelor pad. We were going to some nice meals. Now I've got my stuff is laying all over, getting set to make the final packing. I found a sports bar, with a really spicy pepperoni pizza that I wouldn't dare have otherwise if I was with my beloved.
What sports bar did you go to?
What's it called? District 4, as in FORE, like golf sports bar. See, got it. Really good pizza. Although I will say that the pizza, where we stayed in the historic Third Ward, a place at the Journeyman here is, oh God, I mean, wood-fired pizza. Oh, wood-fired.
Love this place so much.
I am loving the Third Ward, and I am loving just the rebuild here. Again, when I lived in Milwaukee, it was 30 years ago, and 35 now, when Sherry was going to the Medical College of Wisconsin. And so we lived in West Allis. She went to school in Wauwatosa. I worked in West Bend. And this particular neighborhood just south of downtown Milwaukee was nothing like what it is today. I mean, nothing like what it is. And obviously, this is not the only city that has had this rejuvenation. Think of the warehouse district in downtown Minneapolis, for example, where, again, it was post-industrial America back there in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. And, once everything sadly had either the jobs had moved overseas or things had closed up or whatever, then the opportunity came to fill it back in. And this area has filled in beautifully. So many places with outdoor dining or rooftop dining and drinking. It's right near the Milwaukee Public Market, which of course has been a big success. Just enjoyed it so much. But the highlight had to be going down to 5th and National, where we found the Laughing Tap and found one Greg Bach, who could not have been a more genial host. Thank you again for hosting us. That was wonderful.
Oh, well, no, it's my pleasure to have both of you. It was wonderful to meet Dr. Kreitlow, and I'm glad you had a good time. A really good time. At what point they were good seats, definitely, like you said, best seats in the house, best sight lines right near the bar. And at some point I'm like, it's taking her a while to order a drink or whatever. I turn around and, oh no, she's hanging out with you, just finally getting to meet one another, which I thought was really nice. Yeah. Dr. Kreitlow is absolutely lovely. She's wonderful. She's every time I heard her say, "Hi, Greg," I'm like, she sounds great. And she was great. No, and I'm glad you had a good time. And honestly, it's funny because it's a small backstory for the listeners. We had a show on Saturday night, 7:30 show with Brad. His name is Brad Wenzel, was the headliner. Wonderful lineup as well. But we had a gaggle of men folk there who just
decided to be difficult. Yes.
Decided to be difficult, to make it about themselves, to be all high five, I work in finance, bro-y about things. And
very much so. Yeah.
They showed up late and they were not, so as soon as that happens, I get overtaken with anxiety. I'm like, oh God. But then you add in the fact that I have guests there, you and Dr. Kreitlow, you have come, I want to provide a great experience. So in my head the whole time I'm like so Midwest saying, You better knock it off. We have company here tonight. All right. There's company here.
I'm company. Don't you know who I am?
Company is here. All right.
You did. I didn't hear it, of course, but I saw it because it was in the opposite corner from where we were. But you gave them a stern look, and I'm sure that look pretty much said it all. It's that same look. Why Maybelle is such a good puppy. You just give that look like no. And Sherry leans in and she's like, the as I recall, it's $25 for a ticket, no drink minimum. Come and have fun. And she's like, if you're paying $25, whatever it is, you're paying $25 to get there. Why would you then decide to be a jerk and risk getting, asked to leave? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, Pat, if you want a little bit of like a little more tea on the information, they walked in the door, they paid for their tickets.
Yeah.
So, and there was 10 of them. Mm-hmm. So that's right there. Okay. Do that math. Yep. Then they walked right up to the bar and bought 10 shots. So and then they bought 10 drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So they were heavily invested into the night. So for us to have to, I don't want to tell anyone they have to leave, but at one point the comics comfort and security is my biggest concern, as well as the audiences. And no one came to listen to these dudes talk. No one paid to listen to these brohams try to wax philosophical with Brad, who, by the way, Brad was amazing, because a lot of comics were like, oh, well, he's like, I don't like you.
He did. He said it right there from the stage, because again, they were being rude. They were doing that thing where it's like, well, if I paid this much money, I'm entitled, to say things and do things, when it's really the other way around. But those dudes notwithstanding, it was a great time. We really appreciated it. Can't wait to do it again. And again, before we got into this, I was kind of, waxing nostalgic about Milwaukee. And now this particular neighborhood, 5th and National, Walker's Point, it's right near the Allen Bradley, clock tower, the old Allen Bradley factory. And for folks who hadn't heard the story, 35 years ago, I worked as the traffic director of a billboard company in Milwaukee while Sherry, that helped get Sherry through med school. And so I know at the time, I knew every street in Milwaukee. I knew it like a cab driver. It could get you anywhere because I knew where every billboard was. I had to pick out those boards. So I was very familiar, with these neighborhoods, and to see the changes and the growth, it just did my heart a lot of good, because we spend so much time having to listen to people trash talk cities and go, oh, the big city, I would never go there. Well, then you missed out, because so many people were having a great time walking up and down the streets, shopping, dining. The new Ben & Jerry's ice cream place opened up across the street. I heard. I might have stopped there for a bit. You guys are missing out. And so it was good to see all of that. And it was also good to see all the folks who are putting up posts en route to Chicago and are there already, because it's going to be a big, fun convention week, that we're looking forward to. Hopefully, technically it'll all go all right. I know you and Jane for Matt and Aaron Air, you'll have guests all throughout the week from the convention, and a lot of good people and good times to talk about, hopefully.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about Milwaukee that's great, is that it is having a revitalization. It's got great leadership there with the county executive and the mayor. I don't mean to throw water onto a burning fire here, but really weird. That was a very weird term I just used. You want to throw water on fire, but I just don't. The thing is, I don't want Milwaukee to lose its flavor. I also don't want it to become a place where people who want to visit or want to live there can't, because you see these cities nowadays, and you're like, oh, it's a very livable city, and within 3 years, you're like, oh, I can't even afford to hang out here because it's so expensive. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but I'm loving the not only the energy, but the pride people have of living in Milwaukee. It's a beautiful city, and we love being a part of it with the tap. Yeah, there's definitely a sweet spot that you're looking for there. I saw some numbers over the weekend about growth across Wisconsin, population shifts, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but here's the takeaway. Of the top 10 communities that have gained in population since the 2020 census, the big bad city of Madison and the rest of Dane County grew more than the rest of the list combined. And so not only is that people voting with their feet, but going where the economy is,
But it's also a cautionary tale to those who would continue to, I say, falsely exacerbate the rural-urban divide. The divide between Wisconsinites isn't nearly what some people make it out to be, but obviously people with a political stake will try to make things worse and say, oh, those big, bad, horrible cities. First off, you're wrong. But second, from a political strategy, I wouldn't really go with that. The way that communities like Madison and others are growing, maybe find some ways to work together. And we're going to talk about some of the issues important to that coming up with our guest in our second hour, State Senate Minority Leader, Democratic Leader Diane Hesselbein of Middleton. She is also heading to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, and we will be talking about the issues that she's been hearing from voters as she knocks on doors for others. It's one of those things where half the Senate is up, because it's a 4-year term. And so if you're not up this year, well, instead of sitting at home on your duff, you get out there and you knock on doors for other people, like in assembly districts and things. And that's what she's been doing. We actually caught up with her in the Fox Valley, and she talks about knocking on doors there and the things that she's hearing. So that's coming up. Selena Heller will be along. Dr. Kristen Lyerly will be here. We should be hearing from Terry Bell, Civic Media News Director, about convention coverage for this week. But I would be remiss not to take our usual sports slot here at 6:17 and mention being at American Family Field yesterday to watch Colin Ray take a no-hitter into the 6th inning, which for Sherry and for me, sitting in the stands, that just wasn't on my radar. I'm like, God, he's having a really good game here. He's having a good game, but I would have to be later in the game before I look at the hits, column and go, hey, they haven't. So when there was this big round of applause when one of the Cleveland Guardians got a hit, I was just like, I know there's some Cleveland fans out. And then I look at the scoreboard. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the first hit. way to pay attention. I'm trying so hard to be a good host for Sherry here, and we're talking about the game and the stadium and everything else. And I'm like, oh yeah, he was pitching 5 2/3 of no hit ball or something like that. So that was a really good game. The Brewers sweeping the Cleveland Guardians. So I mean, come on. You split a series with the first place Dodgers. You sweep a series from the first place Guardians. And I believe the Brewers are something like 11 or 11 and a half games.
11. They're 11.
11 game lead. Go Brewers. We'll talk more about that and more on during the rest of this beautiful day here on Up North News Radio, live from Milwaukee. Back in a bit. All right, we'll tell you what the Simpsons doing in today's segment coming up when we air that little piece coming in about 30 minutes here on Up North News Radio. So yeah, we were just chatting about the Brewers and being a little nervous coming into that series with the Dodgers and losing the first 2 games and thinking, oh gosh, this could be, it could be Sinatra going in now. The end is near. No, it wasn't. The Brewers won the next 2 games, swept Cleveland, have that big 11-game lead over the Cardinals and the Cubs and the Reds, who were all losing yesterday. With 6 weeks left in the regular season now, So, what a deal to go 5-2 on the week there against nothing but first place teams. Now, before the game, Robin Yount was honored for the 50th anniversary of his rookie season. And in the coverage of it, and by the way, I'm going to add parenthetically, and I don't know, maybe Greg knows the answer to this, but they've been talking about the Robin Yount 50th anniversary thing, anniversary of his rookie season all season. And he was like there at spring training. So I wasn't sure of the significance of doing something in mid-August, but they did. And it was a reason to run more video tributes. And he was there throwing out the first pitch and waving and everything. But I wasn't aware of any calendar hooked to the date necessarily. It was like,
yeah,
bring Robin Yount out. And look, the guy is still so beloved in this community.
Oh, yeah.
In the coverage of it, there was a Journal Sentinel story about how he almost left in 1989. You know, the Brewers had been in the World Series 7 years earlier. He didn't think the team was trying hard enough to get back to the World Series. And he talked about all the school teachers who sent in letters from their students, who wrote letters asking Robin Yount not to leave. And he said it just about made him cry, and it played a role in his decision to stay for the rest of his career.
That man is amazing, and I didn't really know anything about him until I went to a ball game like years ago, and they were giving away a Robin Yount jersey as a giveaway, and I remember looking at the scoreboard going, who's that hobo wearing a Robin Yount jersey? And apparently now he's just like, he used to be like this super intense guy, and now he's like, what's up, man?
So chill. Yeah,
I make lemonade. I grew my hair out. Let's just do this, man. Let's just rock and roll. Like, he's just I love seeing him because he's living his greatest life.
He really is, and God bless him for it. And he's earned it for as hard as he had to work.
Yeah.
So the Brewers now, they're off today. They are traveling to St. Louis for 3 games starting tomorrow evening. There will be games Tuesday and Wednesday evening, then Thursday afternoon. Then for the weekend, 3 games out in Oakland. Their next homestand is a short one. It's next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday against the San Francisco Giants, and then they take off right away afterwards for another road trip. Couple more quick sports notes. I see as I was sitting in this sports bar having my spicy pepperoni pizza, out of the corner of my eye, I saw NBA TV having some kind of a special rollout for the schedule. The schedule's out now for the next NBA season. I don't have much of any headlines on there. I see they're again having their little NBA Cup, or I think it's the Emirates Cup now. You know, the in-season playoff tournament is going to be a thing again. But the main screens were on the Packers preseason game, which was last night in Denver. I believe the final was 27-7, something like that. Again, it's preseason. I shouldn't care. I'm only mentioning this because I was sitting and watching it. I was like, they got some work to do, but that's what preseason is. That really is my intense sports analysis of the Packers today. It's preseason. They got work to do.
Yeah. All right, good job, guys. I'm gonna not be here anymore. All right.
I'll see you in September when it counts. Yes. So politically, we'll talk all about the Democratic convention here in a bit, but I did want to spend just a moment or two talking about the tack that the Republican ticket is taking, especially this week. Because this week, J.D. Vance is coming back to Wisconsin, and he's coming to Kenosha, and he's going to give a speech about, law and order and safety. And Donald Trump on that same day, Tuesday, is going to be in a city called Howell, Michigan, and he's going to be talking about law and order and security and safety. These were not picked by accident. Folks are very familiar with the tragic occurrences, in Kenosha, and the police shootings in the Racine-Kenosha area. And Howell, Michigan is an area where just a month ago, a group of Nazis, white supremacists, marched and rallied. And it's a city that has had ties to the KKK for some time now. I'm not seeing anybody in traditional media actually using the term race baiting at this point, but I'm going to be paying close attention to the language. You hear all the coded phrases, law and order and safety and security and all of that, without any discussion whatsoever of some of the causes of unrest in some of our communities, whether it's economic reasons or the spate of police violence, especially against unarmed Black men. We have played comments recently from Eric Hovde, who was trying to denigrate some of the Black men who have been shot and killed by police, sometimes in unprovoked instances. And guys, again, I know you're not paying me to be a Republican political consultant, but yeah, it gets you some votes. It riles up your base. But again, we just talked about the changing demographics of this country, and a party that has to engage in its communications this way is not one that's looking toward the future. You look at the Republicans continuing to make attacks on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, running mate of Vice President Kamala Harris, about the way things were handled in Minneapolis in the wake of the police murder of George Floyd. And they're continuing to try to make that stick, even though there is ample record that Donald Trump publicly thanked Governor Tim Walz for the way that he handled things with the National Guard. Much like you see again the continued effort to try to spread misinformation about how Governor Tony Evers handled dispatching the National Guard when things were not going well in Southeast Wisconsin. But again, a look at the record shows how he did things and did things in a timely manner. So maybe this is a one-off this week for these visits to Kenosha and to Howell, Michigan. Maybe more will be said from an economic standpoint, but I doubt it. I mean, over the weekend, Donald Trump, again, despite all of the pleas by Republicans to get back on an economic message, Trump used the word entitled. He said he's entitled to make personal attacks on Kamala Harris. And not just attacks on her, but said attacks on her looks and said that he's better looking than Kamala Harris. Now, again, in any normal campaign, Greg, when one candidate would denigrate the woman running on the other ticket and say, I'm better looking, you would immediately be written off as a clown. And yet, despite that and all of the other rambling that he did at that news conference last week, it's Kamala Harris who's getting grief for not having enough detail in her economic plan that she talked about on Friday. The free pass is it's mind-blowing at times. But this is what we've come to, and why we just want to remind people, take a look at the whole big picture.
Yes, please, please, please.
We'll talk more with Dr. Kristen Lyerly, later with Selena Heller, and much more throughout the course of the morning. This is Up North News Radio, live from Milwaukee, here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to figure out my light situation here and
I'm trying to figure out your voice situation. What you been doing over there? Who you been
talk.
cheering? Were you cheering for somebody or something?
No,
No, just
I just have a cold.
oh no.
Yeah.
What who did that? Was it Esquire? Was it Vanity Fair? One of the best known articles out there was Frank Sinatra has a cold. I want to do a spoof on it. Kristen Lyerly has a cold. All the world must stop. While
Start spreading the news. I sound like Frank
spreading the
Sinatra.
germs. Yeah. You gonna be okay?
Yeah, I've had it for like a week.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, you just keep doing your thing.
That's
What are you
right.
gonna do?
Oh, well, I don't know. Rest, chicken soup, things like that.
We had a big conversation about this. What does rest mean? I'm not the type to just like sit on the couch and chill. I get antsy. That actually makes me feel uncomfortable.
Hmm. I don't know. I think that they tell me it's good. I never do it. Actually, the thing I never do is sleep. So many times Sherry will be like, "Did you sleep?" "Oh, I rested."
Yeah.
Oh well. All right. And then you'll go. You're doing Chicago on Wednesday. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We've got about 20 seconds here.
You used to call me on my. You used to.
Cell phone. Say the words. Cell phone.
Yeah. You used to call me on my cell phone.
There we go. We'll tell you why Drake is in today's history lesson in just a little bit as well. Dr. Kristen Lyerly is here. Obstetrician, gynecologist, candidate for Congress, mother of 4 boys, and fighting a cold. Dr. Lyerly, good morning.
You used to call me on my cell phone.
I was gonna say,
Not so good.
When you have a cold, you can sing like different people than you normally would. When I get a cold, which I don't have right now, but we do Lou Rawls. We get way down there. My lady love. Clearly it's not working when I'm healthy.
Who's the Barry White? Go a little Barry White.
I do a little Barry White too. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. I heard people say that too much of anything is too good for something like that. No. Now I know I have to cue this up at some point next time I'm sick. We're gonna have fun with that. How was your weekend otherwise?
It was so good. We did the Fat Tire bike ride in Green Bay, hung out with some friends in Kaukauna. That was a blast at the Vaudette and Tech Brewing. And then yesterday, this might be why I'm sick because I spent so much time talking. I ran down to Chicago and talked with a group of folks and then went to Tammy Baldwin's barbecue.
Oh, okay. Well,
Wow.
You have been a political beast. So you've made one trip to Chicago and you're not like down there for the convention, obviously, but you're making a couple of runs down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going back on Wednesday through Friday morning, but I got kids and it's back to school time, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got back to school day today. And then I've got another one who's going to Stevens Point this afternoon for his back to school visit. We're busy.
I was under the impression these boys were feral and were able to do whatever they need to do whenever they need to do it. But they still need their mom.
They do. And it's fun because they're old now. So they're just they're fun to be with.
They're old.
Uh-huh. Well, they were fun when they were little too, but it required that much more actual parenting. Yeah. Now it's more like
you're more you're giving them guidance instead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's more like talking with parents while they do their thing.
That works out really well. Hey, while I'm down here in Milwaukee, and I'm just a couple of blocks away from the Summerfest grounds. Have you been to Summerfest a lot over the years?
Yeah.
Okay. I laugh because there's here in this particular hotel, there's posters, of course, hanging around, pictures of Milwaukee and all kinds of things. And one of the posters that's hanging in our room is for Summerfest 76. So the 1976 edition of Summerfest was advertised as a bargain for $2.50.
Oh my gosh.
All of the entertainment that you would get here. I should have made this into a game and say which one of these did not play at Summerfest, but I'm just going to go ahead and read the lineup. Summerfest 76 introduces its lineup of top names in person under the canopy of the stars. This year, you'll see and hear talent like Tony Bennett.
Oh, yeah.
The Ohio Players, love roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Judy Collins.
Wow. At
Helen
Summerfest.
Reddy. The Spinners. Chris Christopherson and Rita Coolidge, and Bobby Vinton.
I love Bobby Vinton. Bobby
Summerfest
Vinton
76.
That is amazing. That's an incredible lineup.
Mm-hmm. That is, I mean, I can't think of a more quintessential mid-70s lineup. All it was missing was, because they were the hot new group that year, would have been the Starland Vocal Band giving us Afternoon Delight.
Yes.
I was going to say Kool and the Gang.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That was a little, yeah.
That was, well, they
right.
really broke out in 1979 with Celebration. The Commodores, that would have been the ones to have that.
I love how
year.
he just pulled that right out of his brain, like in 1979, like a case,
Actually,
like our
Greg,
own Casey
you know,
Kasem.
if you
Nerd. All right, so I was too busy not being born at that point. So
there it is again. So I have been raving in the first half hour about these parts of Milwaukee that we've been staying in, and it included an intentional ride on the Hop, which is the downtown kind of trolley that they have set up here, and which Republicans have been, again, promising to defund and tear down, and they've been mocking it. And meanwhile, ridership has been, at record, has been going through the roof as people take it. And it is a really nice way to make a loop through downtown if you're a worker or a visitor. And I think it's all great. I think it's a start, but if they really want this to be something, they're going to have to run it out to, say, the airport and or the Milwaukee County Zoo. So it's time to take it beyond downtown. Obviously, funding is an issue. Republicans in the legislature are an issue. But Kristen, you and I both have plenty of friends who have already posted on Facebook about taking the train to Chicago, like I'm going to be later this morning. And when are more politicians going to understand the need to support all forms of public transit, not just turning an 8-lane freeway into a 10-lane freeway?
Well, I think when we have politicians who are forward thinking instead of backward thinking, because when you listen to young people, when you listen to people who are innovative and they're thinking about how do we grow business and industry, you've got to have solid public transportation. There's no way around it. When I listen to my kids, they would love a train that goes from Green Bay down to Milwaukee, down to Chicago, but we just simply don't have it. So I think we've got to vote in the right people who are thinking about the future of Wisconsin instead of going back to the past.
Yeah. It's, again, like I said at the top of the hour, it's this whole notion of denigrating all cities. And I recall hearing this when there was talk that, well, any kind of light rail line in Milwaukee would stop at the county line, because Waukesha County and Washington and Ozaukee counties would never allow for it. Much like some folks in Eau Claire really continue to fight having commuter rail service to the Twin Cities, again, because, we don't want, and then of course they get into some tones that are just, downright offensive, when in fact you've got commuters and visitors and shoppers that would, just overwhelming demand, I think, would come in if we started making more investments in these kinds of public transit issues, as well as all things public parks, public schools, public health. I don't know why some people are so against public. It's a good thing.
Public walkways so that people can get out and walk and bike, and so that you don't have to take your car a mile down the road to go get groceries or go get dinner. And then you can bump into some neighbors and have a conversation. And that's good for your physical health. It's good for your mental health. The more we can be out and about together, the healthier we are.
Tell you what, when you're in a walking neighborhood like this one in the Milwaukee's 3rd Ward, you meet a lot of good boys. And you don't know for sure if they're boys or girls, but you just go, who's a good boy? Because there's so many people walking their dogs, and they walk by, and somebody at our hotel cafe always has a treat jar ready to hand to any doggos that come by.
Oh, that's so good for you. It lifts your spirits.
It does. It absolutely does.
I will say, though, as a dog owner now, when people assume my dog's a boy, I get immediately like terse. Like, I had a guy in Kenosha, we're at an ice cream shop having an ice cream, and he goes, "What's his name?" I go, "Her name's Maybell." "Oh, how old is he?" "She's a year." "What kind of breed is he?" "She is a German Shepherd mix."
Well, at that point, he's now just messing with you. He's like, okay, he's, and what are you going to do? You're going to go all gender normative and put a pink bow on her?
Yes. Maybell needs a pink collar if you want people to identify her as a her. Otherwise, do you want them like taking a peek and like how?
Yeah, we're not going to get down.
Purple collar. She's got a purple collar and a pink, and there's a pink leash. But if any one of you two can put a bandana on her, good luck.
Yeah, I know. We tried with our lab for 14 years, and that never takes. It's amazing that dogs can't do a lot of magic, but sometimes they can make a bandana disappear every time if they wanted to. Kristen, obviously you will go back and to Chicago and visit the convention at some point here. We were going to have President Biden speaking tonight, not Thursday night, like he originally thought it was going to be. What do you think tonight's going to be like for that opening night at the United Center?
I don't know. I hope that we see the Joe Biden from the State of the Union address, a little bit of a spicy Joe Biden who talks about all of the successes of his administration and then where they go from there, and how critical Vice President Harris has been and will continue to be as she provides that continuity.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, very heavy on the accomplishments that he's made. But of course, now, as happens in every election cycle, it's no longer just the president's administration, it's the president, vice president administration. So it's the Harris-Walz administration. And that's nothing new. Like I said, that comes up in every campaign cycle, because rightfully the vice president is there as a partner. But you also have Joe Biden having to make the case that while he did these good things, that his vice president, Kamala Harris, is more than ready to take the baton and run with it. And I think that there's going to be a welcome, the likes of which we probably haven't seen at a convention for a while. Because again, the I'll say it, relief that that the president did what he did for 4 years, and then was willing to say, okay, it's time to let somebody else take the reins.
It just feels like such a breath of fresh air to see these leaders doing the right things for the people instead of the politically appropriate things for themselves. We've seen so much ugly politics and so much selfishness, and we've gotten used to that, I think, especially in Wisconsin, because it's been over a decade. But to see someone like Joe Biden do the things that he's been doing recently, stepping back, handing the reins over to Vice President Harris, and then just the way that she has taken off. I think of a relay, like that was a great handoff, and she just like right out of the gate. So I'm so excited. In Chicago yesterday, people were saying the energy that they're feeling in their communities has been unbelievable. We've been comparing it to Obama. People yesterday were saying this is bigger than Obama.
And in fact, you're actually hearing, folks in the media make a pivot here, because for the past week or so, you'd see these articles about, oh, it's going to be in Chicago. Is it going to be like 1968? And instead, this morning, there was a headline that said, forget 1968. It feels more like 2008. When Obama was first running. It's that kind of a vibe. And I would also quickly remind folks, Chicago's had another convention since. They had it in 1996. It went just fine. Settle down, people. We're not revisiting 1968. The world is nothing like what it was there. But we are reminded of Wisconsin's swing state status, because I get all these emails about the convention. There's all the delegation breakfasts where you see all these guest speakers every morning. I've put in for the media credentials to be there, tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. And overnight comes the demand has been through the roof and is crazy. We cannot guarantee that everybody will get a spot. which again just tells you that this race, it does remain close. It does come down to some key states. And if you are a Wisconsin delegate, and Kristen, you and I know many of them, they're going to be the popular kids in Chicago this week.
Oh, for sure. And if you are a Wisconsinite, you are a popular kid because everyone is looking at us. Of the 3 swing states that are going to determine the presidency, there is something really special about Wisconsin. We are independently minded. And, I have to put in a plug for the 8th Congressional District because this is a district that has swung back and forth 15 times in the history of this district. So, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because the next couple of months are going to be a blast.
that no doubt there. I mean, and this is our first conversation since the primary, and so now that your Republican opponent will be Tony Weed, the Trump endorsed candidate, although they are all trying so hard to be Trumpian. The difference being that I know that district has been traditionally, lately, a leans Republican district, but has a lot of independent voters. And yet I don't necessarily see that you're going to be running against somebody who's going to try to tack to the center, because you end up being referred to as a rhino.
Well, his entire identity is based on his relationship with President Trump. And in fact, even his yard signs lead with the words Trump endorsed before they even say his name. So I think it's impossible for him to separate himself from former President Trump.
Yeah, no. They've decided to be joined at the hip, and so be it. Alicia Saunders writes that Northeast Wisconsin is rocking.
Yeah, it is.
Knocking on all kinds of doors, as is Senate Democratic leader Diane Hesselbein, who is going to be our guest in our next hour, talking about knocking on doors, talking to voters, and the issues that matter to the voters before she heads to Chicago. Take a break here. We'll have today's history lesson coming up. Selena Heller from Up North News will be along as well. This is Up North News Radio, live from Milwaukee.
That can only mean one thing. I know.
I'm a little nostalgic for the old Drake.
I don't know the old versus the new, so.
Well,
tell Grandpa what.
There's the whole thing with Kendrick and all of he seems to be like swept up in that whole I'm a celebrity. I used to think that he was maybe, there are some people who survive that and they still stay cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that he was one of those people, but no, I don't.
Nope. Fame will do that to you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
My voice is getting better, though. Thanks, guys. You're like therapy.
Yeah, we're here for the practice. Yeah. Back now with today's history lesson at 6:50, and now normally you'd expect to hear us play Chicago because of the Democratic National Convention going to be there, but there actually is a little method to the madness here, because it was on this day in 1972 that the album Chicago 5 hit #1 on the album chart, and Saturday in the Park was arguably the biggest hit off of that one. Also on this day in 1972, there was a brand new show that debuted on NBC, The Midnight Special. It was just supposed to be a one-off special presentation, but eventually launched as a regular show. Wolfman Jack serving as the announcer, and it's really how those of us in the Midwest got a little culture, was the Midnight Special, learning what's new in the rock and roll world. Selena Heller joins us now as well. Selena, Midnight Special, was that one of those shows that if you were babysitting, on a weekend, you'd be able to stay up late enough to watch that, or was it already gone by then?
I do not know that show.
Don't know the Midnight Special?
No.
Okay, let's work my way along the age ladder here. Greg?
I do not.
Yeah.
Okay. Kristen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, just wanted to see where the line is here. Thank you, everybody.
Selena wasn't one of the cool kids.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Well, look, we lived in households, some of us, where Midnight Special was a little bit different because otherwise it was the Lawrence Welk Show and Hee Haw. That was pretty much our
Bobby Vinton.
And Bobby Vinton. Yep.
Okay,
yep.
all right, we get it, Dr. Lyerly. You like Bobby Vinton.
La na 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 na.
All right.
I do know Hee Haw.
Oh, Hee Haw.
Everybody knows Hee Haw,
Love
of
Hee
course.
Haw.
Okay. Here's a little interesting thing about Irving Berlin, of course, the great American songwriter, and talk about staying power. The first item is from 1911, and Variety magazine calls a young Irving Berlin and his new song the song sensation of the century. Play a little bit of that song sensation of the century from Irving Berlin in 1911, Greg. There it is, folks, the song sensation of the century. Now, he'd written a few other songs since that point. And in fact, by the time we get to 1983, when Irving Berlin is 95, one of his songs, a cover of it, peaked at number 9 this week in 1983. Here's Taco.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?
So the significance of that is that it made the then 95-year-old Irving Berlin the oldest living songwriter to ever have a top 10 record. So a little staying power out of the young man.
And he was like, thank you, Taco, for bringing my music to the people.
On this day in 1957, in Newsweek magazine, there was a special music report that talked about the new refreshing sounds of music from Pat Boone. So moving on, born this day in 1940, the late Johnny Nash. This was his big top 40 hit.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone.
We've got former President Bill Clinton has a birthday today, 78 years old today. Former Brewer manager Ned Yost is 69. The late Matthew Perry would have been 55 years old today. Country singer Leanne Womack is 58. Several country hits, but perhaps none bigger than this crossover hit.
Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dare.
I have a feeling this has been played at more than one or two wedding receptions over time, or weddings. Former brewer J.J. Hardy is 42 years old today. And singer Christina Perry is 38 years old today and has another one of those songs that has quickly become a wedding staple.
I have died every day waiting for you, darling, don't be
On this day in 2003, MTV debuted the new reality series Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica, following 98 Degrees Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson. So, Selena, maybe you watched this show rather than Bobby Vinton or, the Midnight Special?
Maybe that's more like it.
I still cannot open up a can of tuna without thinking about whether it's chicken or tuna.
You know, it was funny back then. And now I think about it, I'm like, man, I feel bad for her because, like, there's so many things that we think. And if we say out loud, people are like, what are you talking about? But we don't have a microphone attached to our body. Except for right now. Point is, it's just, I don't know. Like, I feel like, just be nice to Jessica.
I mean, how many times already have every one of us in these 4 boxes on our screen, been ganged up on by the other 3 and laughed at for saying something? Because again, that's fine. It's a radio show. But if you're getting followed around all day, you're right. You're absolutely. Drake made his professional debut on this day in 2006 with a 30-minute set in Toronto, opening for Ice Cube, and it earned him $100. Kristen, that's probably the Drake that you prefer more than what we've seen lately, right? You said you were kind of liked it when Drake was fresh and on the scene.
I liked old school Drake. I just got a sense that he was like, he was a good guy.
Yep. Like how we all laugh, like, no, celebrities are never good guys. Sure. Well, we hope so. Today is National Potato Day. Hi to everyone in Idaho. It's National Bow Tie Day. It's National Aviation Day. It's National Photography Day. This is International Orangutan Day. And Dr. Lyerly, today is Patient Advocacy Day. You have your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to go back to National Potato Day and acknowledge that Wisconsin is the third largest potato producer in the country, and most of the potatoes come from central Wisconsin, where the soil is sandy.
Yes, it is.
We're coming for you, Idaho.
That's right. Oh no, we always have the Kreitlow Kitchen always has locally grown potatoes in there as well. Selena, what are we covering with you in our next hour? What have you been up to?
We're going to be talking about farm technology days that happened in Cadott last week.
Oh, that's right. You were out there. Can't wait to hear all about that. And then again in our next hour, State Senate Democratic leader Diane Hesselbein will join us as we talk a bit more about the Democratic National Convention heading down there today. Our show will be live from Chicago Tuesday through Friday here on Up North News Radio. Whoops, that's you. This should. Yeah. Hi, how are you? I should be hitting this button right over here, the one for me.
Welcome to Pat's first show.
Welcome to Pat trying to do what he normally does on a big ginormous screen on a teeny tiny laptop. All right, we'll take a break for news and regrouping, and we'll be back after this.
Pat.
Kristen.
It's 8:19, you goofball. Turn your 6 upside down.
Oh, darn. Oh, I'm always so good about that.
I know.
Oh.
You're going to mess people up. They rely on you to get the date right.
Oh. Should have said something earlier, verbally or in the chat.
I just noticed.
Oh, okay. Well, then there we go. Okay, cool. All right. Well, we got through 1 hour of this. In that last segment, just now, did I freeze or get garbled or anything?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. For me.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed my little signal, the little Wi-Fi symbol comes on, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh no. Okay.
You would think in the middle of a city you'd be good, but I've learned not necessarily.
Yep. All righty, let's see. Oh, always nervous about this. It's like, okay, I've got 2 laptops plugged in. I've got the light plugged in. Here's the microphone. It's like, and at one point when I was testing this yesterday, I realized I didn't have the one laptop plugged in, and it just completely died as I was in the very last minute of an interview that I was doing.
Oh my God.
Or no, not an interview, an upload. And thankfully it worked.
Anytime you're not in your home base,
oh,
everything feels like what's going to go wrong.
Well, have you been, I can't recall when Todd Alba comes out to do his show live. Have you seen his whole setup?
In Green Bay?
Yeah. No, not at the studio, but he's got one that he brings like a portable board.
Oh my
He brings a table, signage, just everything. And I mean, I feel like I'm kind of getting it done with my nice little setup here. It all fits on a desktop. But
I like to be efficient.
Yeah.
Like my phone, a ring light, some headphones. Let's go.
Yeah. Yep. That would be ideal. Except you're actually running the show here, so I have to have like StreamYard and notes and all these other thingies.
You're kind of a big deal. You don't just wing these shows every morning? It sounds so natural.
Hey, Selena, I think
Yes.
I'm gonna need you because of the whole setup here. Can you email those movies real quick to Greg? What do you think they'll upload?
Maybe. I'll try.
How did you? Oh wait, you shared them with me.
They're in the Slack.
And I don't have. Oh, are they in Slack?
Yes.
Oh, there they are. Okay. Okay. I wonder. Nope. All right. Oh, darn it. And this is my obligatory yelling at you again for sending me these at 2:30 in the morning. Go to sleep, girl.
Can you get them?
They're downloading. They just download a lot slower, obviously. Greg, can you hear me? Are you doing things, Greg? Doesn't have his headphones on. Greg, put your headphones on.
Can he see us? What if I
don't know if we do this, will he? Doesn't get him to put his headphones on? No? Okay.
Yeah.
He's just messing with us now. Yoo-hoo. Oh, there's maybe.
What are you
not.
doing?
We're waving
trying
at you.
to get your attention. Hey.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, if I upload Selena's things, if I copy them into Google Drive, will you be able to get them from there?
Yeah, I should be able to. Yeah. If you just put them into into the chat, that should be fine.
Okay. Actually, yes, you're right. All right, I see Brittany there. All right, I've dropped one called Jeremy, a video in the chat with you, and one from Julie will be along shortly. And these are for 7:20, so it's not a rush.
Okay. They're still uploading?
Yeah, they're still uploading. Hey, Brittany.
Good morning.
Oh, hello, Brittany. Good morning to you, Brittany.
Sounds aggressive.
Right?
Jeez.
Oh, whatever. I do what I want. I talk what I want.
Jeez.
It's Monday.
Yeah, I'm just having my first sip of coffee, so I'm just.
I was gonna say,
All
I'm just getting 1 cup of hotel lobby coffee.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from Milwaukee, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Welcome back. We are live from Milwaukee today on our way to the Democratic National Convention on this Monday morning, August 19th, 2024. Nice to have you along. I'm here, of course, with Greg Bach and Waukesha, Selena Heller from Up North News, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, candidate for Congress, and meteorologist Brittany Merlot is here as well. Brittany, good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys?
Oh, it's just wonderful.
Yay!
Seems like it's going to be a good week. It's just a gorgeous sunny day here in downtown Milwaukee. We had pretty good, some spotty showers around at times, but boy, when that sun was out, it was just lovely, and can't wait to see what kind of a convention week forecast we're getting all across Wisconsin.
Oh, I've got a present for you. A pocket full of sunshine. How's that?
Oh, okay. Boom.
Mic drop that, right?
All right.
Oh, goodness. No, we have gorgeous weather all week long. Actually, a high pressure system is sliding in today. So this is the last chance of a few more spotty showers out there this afternoon. After that, we are going to see nothing but sunshine for the rest of the week. And in fact, some summery temperatures are returning for the weekend. So it's all good news from here on out. So today, a little bit of patchy fog out there in some places. We are going to see a little bit of wildfire smoke and a little haze to our sunshine as well. It will be partly sunny today, highs climbing to those mid to upper 70s. And again, like I said, a few spotty showers possible around 4 to 5-ish or so. And after that, we are good to go. Tons of sunshine on tap.
Oh, gosh, looking forward to that. Of course, we mentioned on the National Day calendar that today is National Aviation Day, which Rob tells us is Brittany's holiday. So, yes. And
I'm going to fly away now.
Good morning from Tigerton. It's sunny and 54. It was a great weekend mowing on Saturday. Went to a gator ride on Sunday in the woods. He remembers the midnight special because it was on after Johnny Carson on Friday nights. And he wants to go to Rocky Rococo's Pizza today in Wausau. He went there a lot when he was in high school nearly 40 years ago.
Rocky's is the best.
What's that?
Rocky's is the best.
Oh,
and I've never had it.
What?
So I think I have to go today too, right?
Oh my gosh. Breadsticks.
Yes.
Breadsticks? Okay.
Yes.
They're a great place. They have a salad bar they advertise as Salad Bar.
Nice.
There used to be one on Water Street in Eau Claire. Celine, did you go to it when it was on Water Street?
Not on Water Street, no.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
And it was, it's still one of Sherry's favorites to this day. And it raises the question now, because it's cut into rectangles, does that mean that this is what they call Detroit style pizza? Which I would argue is you cut your pizza in rectangles, you pour some sauce over the top, and you call it Detroit style. And I say only this because we're heading to Chicago, and I already did it with Christina Laurie. We're going to talk to her tomorrow. You talk to somebody from Chicago and you talk about pizza, man, suddenly there's like fights aplenty if you're talking about somebody from New York or someplace else. And then Detroit's like, well, we have a style. No, you don't.
They don't.
Okay. First of all, real Chicagoans don't care about Chicago style pizza. It's a tourist pizza.
Oh, okay.
It's true. It's very true. None of my friends from Chicago will ever eat it unless they're taking their parents to Illuminati's. And then also, Detroit style pizza isn't about the shape. I thought it was about the fact that it's like 90% crust.
Oh, okay.
It's so thick in crust that's what makes it quote unquote Detroit style, which I would argue is not a style. It's just
a lot of bread.
Overflow of bread.
Which actually was the whole Rockies thing. Go ahead, Kristen.
I had no idea Greg was such a pizza expert.
Look at me. Have I ever said no to a pizza?
Stop.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm from Chicago, so I am a pizza snob. I'm also Italian, so there's that as well. So I will say it doesn't matter the way it's cut, but Chicago pizza is usually cut in squares and stuff, and it all is just on your taste. If it doesn't have that good flavor, that amazing sauce, I'm not touching it.
That's why I'm saying that I opened up at 6 a.m. saying only one of us here is having spicy pepperoni pizza for breakfast, cold out of a hotel room fridge, because that's what I had at the sports bar last night. So that is coming along right at 8:01. Brittany, thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks, guys.
All right. At 7:11 just about now, tell you that the Brewers, holy cow, what a week they've had. Remember, we headed into the week. They were about to have a 4-game series with the Dodgers. Then they lost the first 2 games. Then you're thinking, are the wheels going to be coming off the bus here? Nay. They won the next 2 and split the series with the Dodgers, and now just got done sweeping the Cleveland Guardians in a 3-game series, including Colin Ray taking a no-hitter into the 6th inning and defeating Cleveland yesterday by a score of 2-0. They are off today. They head down to St. Louis for 3 games starting tomorrow evening. Your first place Milwaukee Brewers now have an 11-game lead with 6 weeks to go in the season. This kids, this is fun. I'm liking this so far.
Feels so good. I love that Greg shows up every day wearing Brewers paraphernalia. It just it reminds me, it amps me up about the Brewers.
They're just fantastic. And I mean, Pat, we've talked to people, and we talked to people on Matt and Aaron Air in February and March, like between Craig Counsell leaving and a very young team and wobbly acquisitions, people were like, this might not be it for them. This might be this. Take a year. Just take a year. Come back. No, and we have almost as good a record as any first place huge team in the entire league.
Here's the nice thing. We're not really looking. Most fans aren't looking at the National League Central Division standings now. They're looking at the full National League standings to see if you get a first round bye, or to see where you are in the playoff rankings. And we continue to be, third. But again, there's every reason to keep thinking we can catch up to those teams, at the very top of the league. Not something we would have predicted earlier in the year, to put it mildly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And I love this energy, and I love Pat Murphy so much.
Oh my gosh. I would say he probably got, other than the Robin Yount overture, of course, marking the 50th anniversary of his rookie season, when they do the lineup introductions, and of course everybody's cheering for the Brewers, of course. What an ovation when they announced Pat Murphy in the lineup. I thought that was just great.
Yes.
Oh, let me also say that I think this is the first time I've been to a Sunday home game in a long time, certainly ever since they started singing God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch. And there's the fella from Fan Services, Bob Kozlowski or something like that.
Yes.
Very unassuming man, just comes out to the microphone and just delivers this very heartfelt rendition of God Bless America. And I hear it on TV every week, but only yesterday did I appreciate you can't pick it up on TV. Everybody in the crowd is singing. It was beautiful listening to everybody sing along with Bob.
Bob does that song. I can hear it in my head. I know every like movement he had when he does his vibrato, his lip moves.
Yes.
And then when it's done, they pull back and he
gives
salutes
his
the
salute.
flag.
Yes.
And we're just like, let's continue to crush Cleveland.
Well, and when he comes off the field, he goes through this concourse just to the side of the visiting dugout, and there's all these fans around, like when the Packers go through the tunnel at Lambeau. Want to high five him on his way out.
We love Bob.
Such a fun environment. And one more note about it. There were a family with like 3 boys in front of me, Kristen, and they were getting a little wild later on in the game. They're trying to mug it up for the Jumbotron, hoping to get on there. And, the parents are kind of looking like, should we settle them down or not? Are they having a good time? Foul ball comes up our way, and it lands just to the right of us. And this guy gets it, probably in his 40s, something like that. And immediately, just without even thinking, just tosses it right over to them.
Aww.
Electric. These boys getting a Major League Baseball that had come up to them.
Best.
That's so great. That's so Wisconsin, isn't it? Like,
It is.
let's just do some good with each other.
Yeah, it's a beautiful baseball moment here. With Selena in a couple of minutes, we're going to talk about Farm Technology Days that took place last week in Chippewa County. So, Kristen, before we let you go, we mentioned you coming down to the convention at some point, some of what you expect to see and hear. We now know that in the 8th Congressional District, your Republican opponent will be Tony Weed. But we should also note for people there, and I'm sure they've heard it already, but there will be 2 elections, right? In the 8th Congressional District. And can you explain why that is?
Yeah, we have a special election because Mike Gallagher, our former congressman, vacated this seat back in the spring.
I believe the word you're looking for is abandoned. So, go ahead.
We no longer have representation here in the 8th Congressional District. So my name will be on the ballot twice, as will my competitor, twice in November. So you have to vote twice, once to fill the seat from November until January for the current session of Congress, and then the second time from January for the next 2 years. It's a little unusual. It's causing a lot of confusion, but hopefully it'll be clearer for folks as November approaches.
I think so.
So for the first time ever, you have to be like, vote Kristen twice.
That's right. It takes 2, baby.
I completely misrepresented what would the the primary election was about last week. And Alicia Saunders got on our live stream on Matt and Aaron real quick to say, you're wrong. Please don't. No, she didn't say please don't, but I felt like an idiot because I thought I'd heard it correctly, and I did not.
Oh, no, that's why we have such awesome listeners, who are quick to make sure that we don't, steer anybody wrong, as we go through the coming days here. So Kristen, it will be good to, I was going to say good to see you. I don't know if we'll see you in Chicago, because I'm sure you'll be dashing in and out, and, we all know how much fun traffic is and the crush of people, but try to let us know where you're going to be. I want to tell you how jealous I am that our friends at Motherhood for Good, Kate Duffy, actually got the first, as far as I can tell, the first joint interview with both you and Becca Cook, who won the 3rd congressional district primary. And so you and Becca were on an Instagram live stream together with Motherhood for Good with our friend Kate Duffy, because now we kind of know who the whole Democratic ticket is for the Wisconsin congressional races. That looked like a lot of fun.
Kate was all over it. She said, what are you doing over lunch? Let's just hop on an IG Live and just go. So I was picking James up at marching band practice, and I did it from the car in classic mom style.
Yes, you did. Yep.
Yeah. And Pat, the same stands for you. AirPods in my pocket, phone in my other pocket. We can chat anytime. Give me a ring.
Call her on her cell phone.
I got AirPods in my pocket. Yeah. We can make this whole thing musical. That's actually something I'm going to try to do from the convention, is maybe try a couple of live hits either on Instagram Live or something else. And you're going to be one of my first calls for help.
Love that.
For a guest. Thank you, Kristen.
Or help. Either one. I got your back.
Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again really soon. And Alicia writes in, it's all good, Greg. Many are confused, and she was happy to set the record straight. Alicia, you're good people. All right, Kristen, we will see you later. Selena Heller will join us to talk more about Farm Technology Days coming up in just a bit on Up North News Radio, live from Milwaukee. Such a good base we got here, kids.
Oh, you guys. I just love starting my week with you people.
I know.
And stretch.
Yeah.
Now go back to bed.
All right, take care of yourself down there. We'll talk soon.
I gotta go be a mom for a while.
All right.
I'll see you later.
See ya.
See you.
All right, and Greg's got both of the notes there, Selena. So.
Yep, I got both clips here loaded and ready to go. And we're all set. And Pat, so far, with the exception of like a few tiny short glitches in the sound, it's been great.
Good. Okay. Well, we'll continue to work off of the hotspot, hopefully.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea. It's the most reliable.
Okay. And Selena, I've got very little info here on Farm Tech, so you just take this and say all you want about it. And if we run out of stuff, I may just transition into talking about the convention or Trump stuff. So don't be offended.
Okay.
If we run out the score on that. Okay. Good deal. Here we go. This is the song is called Dialogue Parts 1 and 2 by Chicago. It's off their Chicago 5 album, which was number 1 on the charts this day in 1972. And I know there's not nearly as many people that listen to all Chicago albums as much as I used to once upon a time. Dialogue Part 1 and 2 is one that I would recommend. It is it's a dialogue between like somebody in their maybe 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, talking to a young person and getting the different kind of perspective on how young adults see the issues and problems of the world, and wanting to get them to appreciate that while, we don't mean to sound all doom and gloom, there's reason for you to get out of your own bubble and see what's happening in the world around you and become a voter. It's as relevant now as it was in 1972. And the part 2 of the song features the band with a chorus talking about, we can make it better, we can save the children, we can change the world. And you'll hear that coming up in a few minutes as we get set to talk to State Senate Minority Leader, Senate Democratic Leader Diane Hesselbein from Middleton will be along coming up in just about less than 15 minutes. And we will talk about her heading to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago as a delegate, as a legislator, and the issues that people are going to be talking about. Selena Heller from Up North News is with us still and talking a bit about Farm Technology Days, which feels a little awkward to talk about from down here in Milwaukee. But look, agriculture is important all over, including just down the road here at the Port of Milwaukee, where, like all of our ports, all kinds of goods go out to all the rest of the world. It's a big deal, Selena. And so a show like this goes a long way toward reminding people of the importance of agriculture to everyone in Wisconsin.
Of course, there were so many people there wanting to talk about what they do, and so many vendors wanting to help them out, of course, with all the new latest equipment and everything. So there's just a lot of people there. It was a good turnout. It was the theme was growing to the tune of success, Pat. And that's a nod to where it was held, because it was held on the Chippewa Valley Music Festival grounds in Cadott, where they hold Country Fest and Rock Fest, and also hosted by Close Farms in Cadott. So a lot of people were there. And it was a pretty neat event. One of the big things. So I was asking people, like, what are the big things? What are the neat things that people are looking at here this week? And one of them was drones. So they had a lot of big drone demonstrations, and talk about big drone demonstrations. Oh my goodness. When you think of drones, you think of these, just the little things.
Little things that just kind of buzz around like, whatever. And yeah, they come in all sizes now.
Holy cow, they're bigger than me. Can you imagine those up in the sky? It's spraying crops and everything. And they check them for crop damage, or they use them to check for crop damage. And in some counties in Wisconsin, bear damage for crops. And so that's what they're using them now. I talked to one of the people there who were doing the demonstrations. American Drone was one of the companies, and Jeremy Williams was from that company. And here's what he had to say about what all drones are used for today in farming.
The smaller camera drones, they're used to maybe things like count herds. You can use special multispectral sensors to measure crop health in your field. Those are the small ones with the sensors. The ones that we do, the spraying, spreading, we can apply a pesticide. We can spread cover crop seeding. We can spread dry fertilizer. We can actually go out, carry a payload, and put on an aerial input onto the field without damaging any existing crop.
Wait a minute. I guess yes, cameras. Yes, I get that. But carrying a payload.
Yeah. They had tanks on them.
Wow.
Yeah. They're
really at that point, I don't know where the line is where you've left drone and now it's unmanned helicopter is kind of where we're there's a line there someplace, and I feel like we're on it now. But that's fascinating.
It is. And that's you wouldn't believe it really till you see it, and they're ginormous, and that's what they're doing the work and helping out in this new technology. And some of the farmers are like, this is all great, and all these big combines, of course, but a lot of can't afford all of that business, so they just stay old school.
Greg, I saw that smile. How great is it to have somebody with a 7-year-old kid on this show, that they just drop in words like ginormous, just in the conversation?
I love it. I was trying to think of another ginormous type of word, but I was let Selena talk. I'm done. Goodbye.
Who else did
you have all sorts of words?
I have the best words.
The best words, as every 7-year-old does. Who else did you talk to out there?
Oh, you were talking about kind of young people earlier. Well, I talked to the college instructors and what's going on in colleges lately. Like, what are they teaching, and what are the classes, and kind of how it's evolving, not just ag classes. So Julie Wadzinski from Northwood Technical College, she is a farm operations instructor, and she talked about kind of the careers these days that students are going into.
So the students that I'm seeing coming in are no longer the cash crop, big corn and soybean guys, or even big dairy producers that we would expect in the state. There's been a shift post-COVID towards food production and for direct-to-consumer and niche markets. So I have students who are looking at starting apple orchards and doing value-added. I have hemp producers looking at CBD products, not just the oil, but what can we make with the oil as value-added. In addition to those garden marketers who are raising vegetables and selling them to consumers. So there's been a huge shift from that big farmer mentality to monetizing homesteads and trying to produce local food for their local communities.
Trying to think of the analogy for that there's all kinds of different types of farming now, and it that the big crops are done now on kind of these mega farms. You don't need a family of 10 kids to run it, and instead it's kind of like how there used to be, say, a store on every corner. Everybody had a general store. Well, now there's just a handful of big supermarket chains, but it frees up other people to go into all kinds of other retail businesses. And the same goes for agriculture. Instead of everybody's got to be a corn farmer, it's all these other things that you can be doing around Wisconsin.
Oh, right. All those apple orchards, and you see all of those things, like the apple orchards that are evolving into more than just an apple orchard too. So like, it's so much entertainment. Like we have Ferguson's orchard here in Eau Claire, and they have all sorts of kids activities. Every year they're adding a corn pit, a haunted house. And so these things are just not just a little thing like, oh, let's start an apple orchard, but it's more and more and more and more, and becoming entertainment also. So just pretty neat things. One of the neat things we saw at Farm Tech Days, square dancing horses.
I'm sorry, what?
Emery and I watched a team in the equine area that the people had their square dancing outfits on, and they did square dances with the horses. It was pretty neat.
Are you sure these weren't drones too? I mean, they're doing a lot with AI these days.
No, it was
Okay.
a fun show, and they danced and twirled and
always something out of you, Selena. Selena Heller, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You do.
Talk to you more later. When we come back, we're going to talk with Diane Hesselbein, Senate Democratic leader here in the Wisconsin legislature on Up North News Radio, live from Milwaukee. Back in a bit. And there we go. All right, Ms. Heller.
Okay.
You have a great day. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. And I am joined now by State Senate Democratic Leader Diane Hesselbein. Diane, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you doing?
Doing very well. We're both getting set to make the trip down to Chicago. You, as a delegate, have you been to a national convention, either as a delegate or an observer before?
No, this is my first one. Have you been there? Have you
I
gone?
was at Denver in 2008 as a delegate.
Ooh,
And
I heard that was fun.
it was a lot of fun because at that point, Barack Obama had sewn up the nomination. But you'll recall that back in like February, early March, when the Wisconsin primary was going to be at that point, it still wasn't clear if it was going to be Obama or Hillary Clinton. And so I signed up to be a delegate just in case there was that kind of drama. Like there hasn't been a brokered convention in, our lifetimes. But I'm like,
Right.
what if this one is? I want to be a part of it. So now you've got this one where I don't know that there was, the highest energy level beforehand, but that has really changed over the past month, hasn't it?
It has completely flipped. It is so exciting, and I'm so looking forward to going. And there's so many things going on that I'm trying to figure out what thing to go to. How much can you cram in one day? And why are the parties? I think for all your listeners, some of the parties are from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Hello, I go to bed early. What is up with that? Who can do that? And then there's breakfast. It's like 8 a.m. What? How are we supposed to do this?
I feel like there's something for everybody that way because, again, with an early morning radio show, and we're down here with Elizabeth Montemuro on our team, and I've already told her, I'm like, you're taking the night shift. You take the evening events. I'm going to do the delegation breakfasts and things like that. So we're able to tag team it. But yeah, if you're in your position, a delegate, you got to kind of pick and choose what you want to do here.
Exactly. Something's going on all the time. I talked to somebody who used to go, and they're like, yeah, take naps. I'm not a napper. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing.
Yeah, you have to pick and choose and collapse and then get back up and do it again.
Exactly.
Because of all the different things that are going to be going on, because the convention business, of course, is pro forma. I mean, we know who the nominee is going to be, and yet folks are going to be in Chicago for not just the meetings or parties, but for the speeches. They want to hear themes. And tell me about the themes that you expect to hear, probably the same themes that you're giving when you're knocking on doors on behalf of other legislative candidates.
I'm hoping, we hear from all the people about reproductive health choices belonging to the individuals, not to politicians. And we've been really good hearing that the entire time too, supporting K-12 education, gun sense laws, common sense laws, things like that, safety, security. I think that's what's on everybody's mind. I'm curious how Vice President Kamala Harris is going to kind of thread the needle to bring everybody together. I think she's done a great job on that so far. I think she wants to be a president for everybody. I'm anxious to hear what she has to say.
What do you think that of the strategy so far on the Republican side, from Donald Trump through J.D. Vance, but even down to Eric Hovde and others, such a focus on the southern border and migrants and crime? I mean, when J.D. Vance comes back to Wisconsin tomorrow, Tuesday, I believe, it's going to be Kenosha. It's going to be about crime. Donald Trump is doing something in Michigan this week. The theme is crime. Do they know something we don't, or what do you think of the current Republican priorities?
I think that's all we're hearing from our Senate candidates as well. I was talking to one of my Republican colleagues, and they were saying what they hear on the doors is the southern border and crime. That's it. And I was like, really? You don't hear about healthcare? I mean, environment? I mean, I'm knocking all over the state too, and on any door that I'm knocking on, no one has mentioned the border. And those are Republican voters, Democratic voters, and sometimes not even voters. They just live there and they're thinking maybe they might be voting for the first time. I've never heard that as a concern.
When you talk to those voters, and especially somebody that might be voting for the first time, do you feel like they understand the importance of Wisconsin as a swing state, and as a result, the importance of their individual vote?
I think they do, and especially young people. I'm fortunate I have a 22-year-old daughter who's voted on every single election since she could, but her friends are like, wow, they're like, we're an amazing generation. We can actually shift this thing. And they're realizing it, because I think we can just keep telling them, like, we need you to vote. We need you to vote. And some of them are trying to make up their mind who to vote for. And I'm glad that they're having those conversations with me.
Now, when folks might be just a touch older than that, when I'm talking specifically of like young parents, to what degree do you think they are aware of who is fighting for them when it comes to things like paid family leave and childcare assistance and health care? Is there still kind of an education process involved, or do you get the feeling that a lot of young parent voters in your district and elsewhere have an idea of what these struggles are like and whether one candidate or another is fighting for them?
Are you saying I'm not a young parent?
I'm saying no, we
Okay,
are not
I'm
young
not.
parents.
I am not. I'm not. No, no. My youngest is 22. No, I would say that with young parents, they know who's on their side, and when they really care about what's going on in the classroom and class sizes, and healthcare decisions, they know that Democrats are fighting for them every single day, and they can see it. We know that the Democrats have put forward bills for healthy school lunches for all. They know that we're on their side and that we're on the side of public education for their kids.
We're talking with State Senate Democratic Leader Diane Hasselbein, and we're talking about some of the specific issues that reach people at their kitchen table, at their pocketbooks. And we've hit on a couple of them here, but I want to get to things like reproductive health rights, school lunches you mentioned a moment ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we've discussed in the context of Project 2025. Which I think more and more people are starting to become aware of. But again, I'm more of an insider. You're talking to folks at the doors. Do you feel like there is a building awareness of what this, multi-group conservative blueprint is and what impact it would have on people, or is there still an education process going on?
There's still an education process going on. People are like, now, what is that? Oh, is that just something they wrote? And I'm like, actually, it's a long, long document. And a lot of people don't have the time to read it through, right? They're busy living their lives. It's football season. They're getting together with friends. They don't, they might not be as clued in as we are in actually reading it, right? So it's just important that we talk to them about what it is and why that would be a hostile takeover of our government.
Okay, well, let's go through a couple of those then. And again, the reasons, the answers might be self-evident to us, but like I said, we were picking on school lunches as just one of many parts in this 900-page document. And your caucus and members of your caucus and in the assembly as well have been fighting for healthy school meals and affordable school lunches. Why is that important? Why should we be concerned that Republicans, and especially in Project 2025, speak so freely about getting rid of any kind of assistance for meals in school?
Well, kids can't learn when they're hungry, and we've got problems in schools, and we have been looking at test scores as well, and we realize that kids aren't testing well if they're not eating well. And if we could give healthy school meals to everybody, we would be ensuring that every single kid would have a full belly when they go to school, and it would remain that throughout the entire day. Some people just simply can't afford to feed their kids, and that's really harsh, and it's a sad reality. And if we level the playing field, everyone gets the lunch, everyone gets fed, and I think we're going to have better kiddos. We're going to have better teachers. I think everyone's going to do better in the school day if we can just get those kids fed a healthy meal.
We know that in Project 2025, for example, not only is there all of the usual language against women's reproductive health choices, but that it goes many steps further than that, restricting or banning the use of mifepristone as an example. You've already mentioned that you're hearing about reproductive health rights at the doors. The Dobbs decision has clearly, found its way into the main top tier of issues. How much worse could it really get? People might ask you, if Donald Trump and Republicans were to win big in November. So I'll ask you, how much worse could it get?
They could completely outlaw abortion in any case. They have a bill for the state, for the Wisconsin State Senate and Assembly that would outlaw even abortion in the case of rape, incest, or life of the mother. That's absolutely what they could do, and women will die. That's what will happen. We've had many instances in Texas, and people have come to Wisconsin to tell their terrible stories that they were on death's door, and the doctor was like, is it risk of the mother yet? Are they almost dead yet? What does almost dead mean? Does it mean that they're on life support? Is that when I go in and I help if there is a dead fetus or something going on? It's really a gray area, and we just have to trust women and doctors to make the best decisions that they can.
In a similar vein, let me switch to expanding Medicaid and how Wisconsin is about to be one of only 2 or 3 states that hasn't expanded postpartum coverage to 12 months from the original 60 days.
One of 2 states, us and Arkansas.
Arkansas, us and Arkansas, in a bill that passed in the state Senate where you are, 32 to 1. And the one was who? Do you remember? I want to say it was Dewey Strobel, but
I think it was Dewey. I think it was.
I think it was too, and that's a different conversation. But in the assembly, there are there's a majority who are sponsors of the bill, and again, I know the answer to this, but why hasn't that been brought up in the assembly for a vote for such a slam dunk?
Speaker Voss doesn't want any Medicaid expansion for any reason, for any opportunity to help anybody. He's just 100% against it. He said as long as he is speaker, we'll never be doing any type of things for that. It's really unfortunate and it's short-sighted. And it's actually mean when you think about it. Postpartum for 1 year, yeah, your body goes through a lot. You have a lot going on. This is helping people. It's helping women and babies and families get the help that they need so they can come back, they can go back to work, they can be with their families and not have such a dramatic, all the stuff that goes through after you have a kid. I mean, it's just common sense.
So
Absolutely common sense.
when you're at the doors, then, I mean, obviously a lot of these folks aren't in Speaker Voss's district. So I imagine the
Right.
message is, well, then let's take Voss out of the speaker's position and take, Republicans out of the majority. There's new maps, but it's still a tall hill to climb to get 15 seats for Democrats to take control. Well, what's your sense of that challenge?
I think the state assembly is in a great position to do that. I have full confidence in Leader Neubauer and Chair Ben Wickler for the state of Wisconsin. And I know we are all working together hand in hand. I'll be honest, it hasn't always been that way. Sometimes there's been a push and a pull with the state assembly and the state senate or the chair, and it's not that way at all. We are on the same team and rowing all in the same direction. It is fantastic to be a part of, and it's fun. It's fun to watch different things happening for different caucuses.
All right, let's then start to wrap things up by taking it back to the convention. President Biden is going to be speaking in the time since he's decided to step back and not run for re-election. It appears that the response has been overwhelming and in sense of a term, feeling of gratitude by the delegates. What are you expecting when President Biden gets to that convention floor?
I believe it's going to be a huge standing ovation. I believe he'll be standing there a very long time until he's allowed to speak, because we're all going to be clapping and just exploding with appreciation for what he's done. And the fact that he stepped aside and people were wondering, would he do that or not? And I was like, I have full confidence in what President Joe Biden is going to do in that decision that he will make. He has always made the best decision for our country, and I believe he will always continue to do so.
Do you feel like convention exposure is going to help Senator Tammy Baldwin in her race this fall?
Oh, absolutely. But Tammy Baldwin, she is a fierce competitor. She is fantastic. She is a wonderful state. I mean, she's just an amazing U.S. senator. And so, yeah, she's doing a great job. And I believe she's going to win very handedly in November, as she always has.
All right. Well, sleep deprivation notwithstanding, is there something more on the fun side that you're most looking forward to? Is it about seeing anybody or hearing from anybody in particular, doing a particular activity? What do you think is going to be the highlight of your week going in?
I've never seen Bill Clinton live, so that would be fun. I saw President Barack Obama, I think when he was at UW-Madison speaking at something, but it's been a few years. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to Vice President Kamala Harris, what she's going to say. And then people keep telling me that we're going to have some good music. I don't know. I keep hearing everyone's asking me, and I keep saying, I don't know, but I'm excited for whoever's going to be there.
I think people are going to be very entertained, and to which I think we can only say just keep watching that screen, and not just on TV. There are 16 different options for live streaming this thing through TikTok and YouTube and X and everything else, but you get to be right there. State Senator Dianne Hasselbein, thank you so much. Enjoy it to its fullest, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.
It was really nice to talk with the senator about getting set to come to the Chicago convention. Again, we heard from Kristen Lyerly earlier, who will be coming down. Now, not everybody will, because obviously there are campaigns to run. I was communicating with Becca Cook, who's in the 3rd Congressional District. And it's one of those things where when you're in a tougher race, every day you can be in the district matters. And so as much as people might like, to be part of all the festivities, there's still a lot of work to be done with, what is it, Greg, 78 days yet to go until the election. More.
Oh my gosh.
It's not that bad. Look, again, we're talking about a campaign that's basically 100 days long instead of, 4 years. So
I was going to say, but it feels like a decade.
What a decade we've had this year, huh? Terry Bell, Civic Media News Director, is going to join us with 3 things you need to know to start the week next here up north. Civic Media News Director Terry Bell joins us now with 3 things you need to know to start the week. Mr. Bell, good morning. How was your weekend?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Very good, thanks. And where do we find you this morning?
You find me at my Airbnb, about 15-minute walk from the United Center.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be handy, although I have to truck several miles in the other direction in order to hopefully get a little bit of the Wisconsin delegation breakfast coverage this morning. But I understand that's going to be easier said than done, so I'll do my best.
Yes, we mentioned earlier in the show about the note that, hey, thanks for applying for credentials, but we can't guarantee there will be room for you because apparently Wisconsin we are the popular kids now being in the swing state.
Oh boy, yeah, is that ever the case? So I don't know. We'll see what happens when I get there.
I will probably be doing that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right after the show, while they're in the midst of the breakfast. But for folks who aren't aware of it, Terry, the delegation breakfast, like what's so special about breakfast? It's not about the breakfast. It's that all the various VIPs will make the rounds. Essentially, obviously, they won't get to all 50 state delegations, but if somebody, maybe her name rhymes with Mamala, if she was going to drop into just a couple of state convention delegation breakfasts, it would be a swing state like Wisconsin.
Yeah, and if not the vice presidents. I'm sorry, Greg, I stepped all over that.
I was going to say, how has no one called her Mamala Harris now? I just can't believe that.
That was what's your face? Drew Barrymore. Everybody's yelling at their radio right now. She was the one that kind of started that. And in fact, over at the Motherhood for Good website, I looked over the weekend, their new merch, and Mamala is some of the merch, so you can go support them. So I'm sorry, Greg, we were mentioning all the VIPs that stop by these places.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is it
yeah, but
signal?
it's not the vice president herself. Definitely some very high level surrogates.
Yeah, I was exaggerating. I don't think the vice president's going to be doing that necessarily, but you'll find cabinet secretaries and other senators. Certainly, people interested in running for other offices someday will be there. So needless to say, if we're going to talk about 3 things you need to know, the convention kicking off is most certainly one of them.
Yep, that's the biggie today. Of course, the DNC kicking off. President Biden and will speak tonight. And while all this is happening in Chicago, the big thing that people are just talking about, just on the streets around the convention, is the possibility of protests throughout the week. They could be big, they could be intense, and people are certainly hoping there won't be violent confrontations with authorities, and they're trying to de-escalate these situations. We'll see how it goes.
And I think a lot of that is cheerleading from a certain quarter, and I don't mean the people supporting either Palestinians or others. I think there are media folks and political folks that love to talk about 1968, even though Chicago has had a convention since in 1996 that went just fine. So I hope that things are as potentially overblown as I think they might be, but from certain quarters. But we won't know until we get into the heart of things. I thought there was the potential for some very spirited demonstrations by the Pfizer Forum. Nothing like that at all. There were good sized demonstrations, but nothing got out of hand by any stretch of the imagination. And hopefully the same can be said here.
People I hear from say that these movements tend to their bark is worse than their bite, so to speak, and that this movement is much smaller than it may appear to be if you're just paying attention to a few news outlets.
Well, on top of that, I guess you would say a more media savvy time, if nothing else, there are people, frankly, on both sides, whatever group is protesting, and on the police side of things, there are people who focus on de-escalation and of making sure that things don't get out of hand, because it could make, obviously, people could get hurt, or it could just be bad. It could be bad publicity, as you might put it. What else are you following this week for us?
Well, yeah, there are other things happening in the world. Later this week in Madison, the University's Wisconsin Board of Regents will meet, and apparently more two-year branch campuses layoffs and job layoffs are on the table. So we'll see how that goes. But things have not been going in the direction of the two-year schools, which have been shrinking in enrollment. Revenue's been going down, and the regents may be faced with more tough decisions.
I've been wondering about that because for some time now we've talked about how the level of state support from the legislature to the UW system certainly has not kept up with expenses and isn't nearly as as generous as it used to be when we had more politicians that valued a higher education. But I'm starting to wonder if there are what would be the good examples of states. And so I don't know if it's going to be the Wisconsin Policy Forum or one of these other, research and think tanks, but I would be curious to see if there is a state that is laying out a blueprint for what would be a healthy level of support. Again, we're not talking about throwing money at a problem. We're talking about what is an optimal level of support to make sure that your university system is operating, at peak efficiency. Because if these closures are certainly not the way to have that done with this system, or it's nothing but bad news lies ahead for the universities if this trend keeps up.
And there's a task force charged with doing exactly that, Pat, trying to figure out the best ways through these challenges.
You got one more for us before we wrap up today?
Yeah, so apparently the federal government is recommending that Wisconsin screen for Krabbe disease. This is a rare and fatal brain disease that is detected at birth. It made the news a few years ago, and Jim Kelly, the former pro football quarterback, his son died of this. So this is very serious. This is the problem with the screening that some doctors have is that they can produce false positives. And also there are some doubts about the treatments. It can be treated with stem cell therapy, but the outcomes are not always great. So there's been some pushback in Wisconsin to mandatory screenings for Krabbe, but it's back on the table now that the federal government is suggesting that it's a good idea.
Man, we are just always learning something from you, and you'll get this and much more from the Civic Media News team throughout the course of the week, including Terry's coverage from Chicago from the Democratic National Convention. I'll be seeing you there, Terry. Take care. Have a great day.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yep. And Mr. Bach, we'll see you about 10 o'clock with Ms. Matinaire, I assume.
Yes, you will. Yes,
right.
You will.
We will see you then as well. And thanks, of course, to Kristen Lyerly, Selena Heller, and Senate Democratic leader Diane Hesselbein for joining us today. And thanks to all of you for joining us on this Monday, live from Milwaukee. Up North News is the Wisconsin digital outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network building a more informed, engaged, and representative America. Be sure to follow us online on social media at upnorthnewswi.com and sign up for our website. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you from Chicago tomorrow morning.